Welcome to the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast, where you learn the best doubles strategies to improve your game and win more matches. I'm your host, Will Bocek. This podcast, my website, and my weekly newsletter all focus on the goal of better understanding the sport of doubles and helping players like you improve faster through actionable advice that you can use in your very next match. My goal is to provide the best doubles strategy resources in the world. And to do that, I study, analyze, and work with players at every level of the game, all the way up to the ATP and WTA tours. If you enjoy this podcast, I've created doubles strategy products that go even deeper if you want to take your doubles knowledge to the next level. At the end of this episode, I'll explain more about them, or if you want to learn more now, go to thetennistribe.com/products. Here's today's episode. Hey everyone, today I'm going to do another rebroadcast for you. I haven't done one of these in a while, but this is one of the original episodes on the podcast, so I know a lot of you probably have not heard it before, but it's one of the best strategy interviews that I've done as well. So it is my interview with Craig Shannessy. I've mentioned Craig a lot on the show before. He's been kind of a tennis mentor to me. He's influenced my own thinking about tennis a lot. He's a big data and analytics guy. He used to work with Novak Djokovic and has worked with Matteo Berrettini, the Italian Federation, Wimbledon, and he writes for the ATP Tour still today. So this conversation is from back in 2020, and we talk about how Craig divides up the doubles court. It's not where you're covering the deuce court, I'm covering the ad court. He thinks about it a little bit differently than that. He talks about his center window concept. What should the ideal doubles point be? He has some tips for serve and return strategy, as well as covering the lob and a lot more. So this is one of the best strategy interviews in my mind that we've had on the podcast. And I know since a lot of you are new to the show, you probably haven't heard this before. And if you have, it's a good refresher for you. I feel like I'm still kind of catching up from the WTA finals. I had a new project come up last week that I've been working on this week with the TCU women's tennis team. We've been working on a lot of doubles, so I'm going to have more new content for you next week. But for this week, definitely a good refresher with Craig here. So without further delay, enjoy this rebroadcast edition with my interview with Craig O'Shannessy. Today we have Craig O'Shannessy, who is an ATP Tour strategy coach. Craig, why don't you kind of tell the audience about yourself? A lot of this is going to be doubles players who or USTA players may not be familiar with what you do on tour. So just real briefly, 30 seconds to a minute.
So grew up playing tennis in Australia. Albury grass courts, 25 grass courts, just had such a magnificent time learning our sport there. Came over and played college tennis at Baylor University, and then got into coaching. So, a lot of you play at clubs, 3-5, 4-0, 4-5 level. I've done 2 decades of coaching you guys, and whether it's specific drills, one player out on the court working on their volleys or working on returns or doubles teams together. I love to do that, and even having 4 players play practice sets and coaching during that and videoing it. So now I specialize in strategy. I have a website, braingametennis.com, and I'm the strategy analyst for Wimbledon, the ATP Tour, the New York Times, and doubles is my gig. I love doubles, and I'm really happy to be talking to Will today and looking forward to sharing as much as I can with you.
Awesome. So, yeah, I know the last few years, so you were on Novak Djokovic's strategy team. Last year, you started working with Berrettini in singles and helped his team bring him from outside the top 50 all the way to the ATP finals. So you're really, at least from what I've seen the past few years, known for your singles, but you do have 2 doubles courses on your site. I know you've worked with doubles players in the past. Yeah. Talk about your experience on tour with doubles as well.
Yeah, I love doubles. I'm always encouraging the players that I'm working with to play doubles. I think Rajiv Ram was a guy that I coached for a while. He had drifted out to about 180, and the next year I worked with him and got him back inside the top 100. And I think that was around 2011. It was a while ago now, but during that run at Wimbledon, he made the quarterfinals and lost to the Bryans in 5 sets, court one, really high-class, high-quality match. So doubles is something that I greatly enjoy coaching. In singles, strategy is, very specific. You've got 2 players. There's not as many things going on. Back at the court is a very big deal. In doubles, there's a lot more what ifs. What if the lefty's playing the deuce court? What if the strength is out wide? Should I go here? Should I go there? It's a lot of what ifs and a lot of scenarios. So when I'm coaching doubles, it's like, okay, if we have this set of players and maybe they're all righties and the weakness is here and the serve goes here. So you've got to get a lot more specific coaching doubles than singles, because there's just, with 4 players on the court, there's a lot more happening. So you nail those specifics down. You understand the percentages of the game, and there's a big reason why it's the number 1 played game over singles at club levels. It's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to be out there on the court with your friends as well. So double strategy, right. I think we'll get more into here is it's a big part of my website as well.
Yeah. That reminds me, there's one thing I always tell my readers. In singles, there can be some kind of blanket rules that always apply, but in doubles, that's really not the case because there's so many more variables.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just one lefty instead of a righty, like you said, can completely change everything, Yeah. Or if somebody on the court has a stronger backhand for some reason, or if they're not as strong at the net.
Which would not be me, by the way.
Yeah, not most people, not me as well.
Actually, I'll tell you a little secret. I've started hitting it really well. I copied Wawrinka, and I see Stan, he just goes, with that grip and just gets it all the way around. I'm like, I'll copy it. I'll do the same. I get all the way around. I'm like, I'm at my backhand. Okay, right now.
I've tried to start hitting mine like Rafa and just spin it in.
Okay. Well, that may work.
We'll see how that goes. I don't know. So let's dive into some of your doubles content. So you've got 2 courses on the site. You have the 25 golden rules of doubles. Yes. I've gone through both of these. They're really, really good. And then you've got doubles numbers, which is a little bit more data driven. So for people who are a little bit more into kind of the numbers and the statistics, that might be a good fit for them. Let's start with the golden rules of doubles. Give people kind of an overview of what that course is about, and maybe your favorite rule out of those 25 or 2 or 3.
Yeah, sure. Well, what we have there is, we cut the court up into different areas. The worst thing about doubles is that line down the middle for the serve. So in Dartfish, I can recreate the court. So, I'm like, well, here's a doubles court. And it's simply just, here's the baseline, here's the doubles line, and here's the other baseline. So, when you get rid of the singles lines and you get rid of the serve lines, it's just this big paddock of an area. So when you look at it, it's like, well, being at the net is good. But a really important thing about doubles is that you must approach it like beach volleyball. In beach volleyball, you have a person at the back and they're the setter. That's their only role. They're setting. The person at the front, they're the spiker. So doubles is essentially the same thing. The doubles numbers course, I'll just pop over there for a second. That's based on all the analytics from the 2015 Australian Open. For the men, it was won by Fognini and Bolelli. So importantly, those 2 guys, they stay back. They serve and stay back, and they've got good groundies. So, the old way of playing doubles and coaching doubles was, let's serve and get to the net. Let's have 2 at the net. And even with 2 at the net, you're staggered a little bit. The player, if the ball's over on the left, the player on our team that's a little bit to the left, they're the front and the middle player. So what I like to see there is that, who covers the middle area? When you get rid of all the lines, it's like, the worst way to think of doubles is that's your side and that's my side. The worst way.
Right.
You also have an element of I'm front and you're back. So Fognini and Bolelli are playing back, but they're still setting and spiking. The player that's back still trying to hit a ball to set up the player at the net. Before it was kind of 2 up, setting and spiking. Now it's 1 up, 1 back, setting and spiking. They both work. But once you get rid of the lines, it's like, okay, what's the best way to look at it? And I have these kind of angles that go across. So, you may be able to add a picture of that from the website.
I'll add that below the video.
Yeah. So, you've got this rectangle, but there's a line that goes across that basically says, if I'm the net player, I can go to the middle. I can even go to the front on the other side. Short, I'll go back a little bit, but if the lob is deep, my partner's going to get it. So this line really helps you understand what's my territory and what's not. And everything is predicated on an area that I call the center window. So the center window is based off this short video that I have. It was the Bryan brothers playing Ehrlich and Ram in Las Vegas 15 years ago. And I used Dartfish once again to create this window, virtual window, right above the net. So the way I measure it is like, okay, I've got to have the dimensions. So the width of an alley is 3'6". So we take off that center line, we measure one alley width there, we measure another alley width there. So we've basically got a 9-foot wide area. And again, we're right above the net. So we go 9 foot right in the middle of the net, and the height of the net in the middle is 3 foot high. So we go up another 3 feet. So we've got this 9x3 rectangle dead in the middle of the court, right above the net. Right. And when you watch this point, the serve goes through there. And right as it goes through there, I've created this virtual area. It kind of leaves a black dot. So it's like it passes through there and leaves an image. And the return comes through, and the next ball, and the next ball, and the next ball, and the next ball, and the next ball. It's about nine shots. All 4 players hit the ball, and every single shot goes through the center window. Right. So the important thing to understand for doubles is control that area. That area matters more than anything else. It's not the alley. It's not the lob. Initially, it's all about that center window. So that's a big one. It's kind of forget the lines and cover that middle area. And that video shows it very, very well.
Yeah. I remember the first time I saw that video, I was like blown away. It was early on in my writing for the Tennis Tribe. And I had a small following here in Austin of some doubles players. And I would tell them, we don't need to be covering the alley so much. We don't need to be covering the alley so much. And then once I met you and started taking some of your courses, I saw that center window and I was like, yeah, that's it. Like, that's the thing I've been like trying to find. It really blew me away. So a couple things you touched on there. One is the 2 back. So you mentioned that players are starting to do that a little bit more on the pro level. And I guess I might be kind of challenging some of my own advice to get forward. I tell my readers, really get forward. And I've seen a interview with the Bryans recently who have said, especially on second serves, it's tough to serve in volley now because returners are getting so good at blasting the ball at your feet. So what is your advice for players who are at more that club level on getting forward versus playing 2 back? When should we do it? Yeah.
So the first thing to understand is there's no wrong or right. We're kind of looking for a better, and a better may involve the skill set. So, over the last decade, volleys have been taught less. We have this idea that getting to the net in singles and doubles isn't so great. And if the volley technique is a little weaker and comparatively, the volleys are down, but the forehands and backhands are up. We're doing well there. So if you stay back and rip a ball, you're getting a little bit better of a shot against a little bit weaker of a volley. So that's one dynamic, is that I'd rather hit my big forehand versus your weak volley. So we have that certainly as part of it. But in the doubles numbers course, when we look at where the winners are hit and where the errors are hit, so essentially in doubles, and again, this is 2015 Australian Open where this data is derived from, but it's very representative at all levels. So errors in doubles still occur in basically a 50-50 nature, 50% at the net and 50% at the back of the court. That they happen pretty much everywhere. But the winners still, and again, this is players that are staying one up and one back a lot. The winners were still over 80% at the net. So when we see the one back and one up, and in your advice saying, get to the net's a good thing, it is, but we're dissecting the two players a little bit. It's like we still need one. We've got to have one person there that's mopping up that center window area. And the person at the back, their role is to hit a ball. I have this other saying, in an ideal point in doubles, you never hit the ball twice in a row. You hit the ball, it's like in beach volleyball. You're not going to do 3 sets on your own or 3 spikes on your own. You set once and it's spiked once. You hit a ball from the back of the court that makes the opponent uncomfortable, that draws the ball back to the middle of the court, so your partner at the net can go and get that center window ball. So that's really what it's all about. In general, the serving team wants to kick the ball in the middle of the court because the ball in the middle will gravitate back down the middle. In general, the returning team wants more chaos and wants a wider point to keep that initial attack by the service partner at bay.
Right. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And another follow-up question that I think I know the answer to, but I know a lot of the listeners are thinking it is, these numbers are great because they're from the Australian Open. They're the pro level. Yeah. I'm a 3-5 player. I'm a 4-0 player. Yeah. Does this stuff apply to me too? And I know you've looked at the data for both, so just talk on that really briefly.
Yeah. So the way to think of the difference between this is, let's take some nice round numbers to just understand it. Let's say you serve at 70 miles an hour on average, and the Bryans serve at 100 miles an hour. And let's say in general, all of their shots happen at 100 miles an hour and all of your shots at a 4-0 level happen at 70 miles an hour. So instead of looking up at them and going, okay, how can I copy them and what they're doing? Imagine having this Dartfish software again, and we bring it in there, and we're watching the Bryans, but we bring their speed down to 70%. Now, all of a sudden, the speed of, we play it side by side. The speed of your serve is the same as the Bryans. The speed of the return is the same as your opponent's. We bring them down to your speed level because ultimately the big difference between club level and pro level is the speed of the racket and the speed of the feet. So let's just say, okay, let's just bring them back. Let's bring the Bryans down to 70 miles an hour. What would we see? What would we see at our level? You could also imagine is that, you are going to go play the Bryans. You're on one side of the court, the Bryan brothers on the other. And we have a speed gun. And we say, our max level is 70 miles an hour. If you hit a ball above 70 miles an hour, we've got to replay the point. It doesn't count. So now the Bryans have got to play at your speed. Mm-hmm. So now it's still the same patterns of play. It's still the server primarily going down the middle of the court. It's still the net player cutting into the center window. It's still the same patterns at your club as it is on center court at the US Open. It's not a different game. It's the same game. It's the same patterns. Yes, your skill level will be less. Yes, we've taken care of the speed level and brought it down. You'll make a few more errors, but run the same patterns. And a lot of this comes from, running academies all over the world with juniors and coaching adults. And, people would say, well, can you coach a kid or can you coach a 3-5 or a 4-0 to copy the best patterns of play from the Pro Tour? I'm like, I don't know, but I can experiment and try. And I've had, again, 2 decades of trying and experimenting. I do it all the time. It works.
Right. And we've got, I know you've worked with Warren over at Tennis Analytics, and he has the data on these 3-5 and 4-0 players, and it really doesn't change that much. The rally length is still under 4. Yeah. It really is about the same as the pro level. So it's really, really fascinating. So let's talk serve strategy. So again, we're a 3-5, 4-0 player. What would you say overall, what should be our game plan as far as serve strategy? How should we think about that?
The pros, you're first of all, you're going to make more first serves in doubles than you will in singles. So, at the pro level, they're making around 62%, 61%. You want to be in between 65 and 70. The reason is you've got somebody at the net that's there to help you. So it's like a switch on your back. I like to think of it as like, I've got a partner at the net and I'm serving. When I serve and I make it, I flick that light on. They go, boom, I'm on. There's light everywhere, and they can play. They're activated. As soon as I put that first serve in the net, I'm turning them off. So now it's very difficult for them to help me. So yes, she wants to make more first serves, and yes, she wants to serve more at the body and middle. A serve in the middle will come back down the middle, and the service partner has first access to the center window. So that's a big one to start with. In the deuce court, most returners are going to return there because their forehand returns better. And most players will return in the ad court because they make more returns. So deuce court, you can serve body, backhand, and tee a lot. But in the ad court, you need some discovery to figure out where the weaker side is. Is it their forehand? Is it their backhand? Is it the jam? It's not as obvious in the ad court. But you're always serving to bring the ball back and set up the service partner at the net. And you know, I remember coaching in Dallas for 8 years. I was at the T-Bone Racket Club there and coaching men and coaching women. And, you know, there'd be a serve go in and the person at the net goes across and hits the volley winner. And they're all happy. They're like, oh, I just hit the volley winner. I feel great. And I bring them together. And I'm like, well, you know, you're the happy one at the net, but I'm only giving you 20% of the credit for winning the point. And they're like, oh, really? And they're like, well, where does the rest go? I'm like, the rest goes to the server because the serve jammed and brought the ball to you and you just mopped up at the net. So, you know, it's always teamwork. It's always the back player making the front player look good. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's a good concept that I'm always trying to encourage my readers to think about is, you know, what happened the shot or two before the point ended, you know, whether it was a winner or an error, you know, what happened earlier on 1, 2, 3 shots before that actually set up that ending shot, and how can you do it differently if you lost the point, things like that. Awesome. So one thing you touched on is the ad side. It's a little bit more nuanced. There's a little bit more complexity to it. One thing I encourage people to do is experiment with I formation and Australian on the ad side a little bit.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I would say Australian's better. So the reason is, in general, the better returners playing in the ad, they're going to make more cross court, and in general, historically, the better backhand return plays in the ad. So, you know, I'm a lefty and I love to serve out there. And I can do well, but let's say, you know, typically we've got a righty. The righty serves to the backhand. The problem for the serving team now is you've got an upgraded backhand return coming back cross-court a lot. The other problem is your righty partner at the net has got their weaker volley there. It's a backhand volley, so they can't do nearly as much with it. So the dynamic is return is better, volley is weaker. Not easy. And there's some big points. I mean, over... You know, without no ad, if we just play normal scoring, it's 75%. No ad changes that completely. But if you play Australian in the ad court, and the server goes a little closer to the middle, the service partner changes over and stands basically right in front of you, up near the net. Now, you've taken away the natural cross-court angle that the returner likes, so that's advantage for the serving team. You're now positioning a forehand volley for the serving team. So that's 2 benefits. And you're making them hit it down the line where they don't like it. There's 3 benefits. And if it comes to my forehand at the back of the court, there's 4 benefits.
Right.
What's there not to like?
Yeah. It's a great strategy on the ad side. I find, especially I'll play against teams and I return myself from the ad side. And returning is, we won't talk about serving, but returning is a strength of my game. So I'll return on the ad side. And there's so many teams, I'll get into a rhythm, cross-court backhands, and they'll never try it. And some teams try it, and it really throws me off. I mean, it's definitely a great way to change it up.
Much tougher angle.
You have to like push it up the line. Yeah, it's a lot lower percentage shot, a lot higher risk for sure. So let's talk about return. So what about return strategy?
Yeah, so the first thing is against the first serve, always let's start with the base platform of let's make the return. Let's put that return in. There's more return errors because there's more threat. There's more threat at the net in doubles than there is in singles.
People are pressing a little bit.
Yeah, they are. They absolutely are. So we want to put more in play. If you can return down the middle of the court, again, the serving team has first right to the center window. So in the deuce court, if you've got a righty, it's their forehand volley. In the ad court, it's the backhand volley. But let's say they're a little sleepy. Let's say they're a little slow. Let's say they don't trust their volleys a lot. Let's say they don't move well. So what you want to do, again, I talked about earlier, the returning team generally wants to create angle and create havoc. And the more you get this weird broken point, the more the returning team will win that point. But there's the other subtlety here is if you can return middle, again, now that's going to draw the ball down the middle. The returner's partner, who's standing right behind the service line in a basically neutral to defensive manner, if it gets that ball goes right through the center window, the server's partner doesn't get to hit it. Now it's game on for the returning side because the returner's partner says, I've got to hold here because the server's partner's a threat. The ball goes right by the server's partner. The returner's partner goes, great. And I call it the J. And it's the shape of a J where you initially go straight to the net and then you cut. And so if you go too early, you're going to get beaten down the line. If you go to the line, you'll never come back and in a C, you'll never come back and get to the center window. So you do a J. Returner's partner gets past the server. You go in. You're faking like you're covering that. You're faking like, I'm not really a threat over there. And then right as they hit it, that's where you go to that center window area. So be aggressive on second serve returns, make a lot of first serves, get inside the server's head to figure out where they're serving, have a really good understanding of the net player and how much of a threat they are to poach. What I love to do, if you did this is an experiment for the people that are watching here. The first service game, do this for the entire rest of this year once we get back out on court. In the very first service game, I want you to take one of the first two returns straight down the line. I don't care if you win. I don't even care if you put it in the court. Because what you're trying to do is stop the server's partner being such a threat in that center window area. So first game, even first point, serve comes to you, you go bang, straight down the line. You win the point, bonus. You lose the point, it's 15-love. But now, for the entire next hour and a half, the server's partner's like, are they going line? Are they going line? Are they going line? And now you've opened up the center of the court for the remainder of the match.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's tough to one of my favorite plays returning is actually when my partner is returning and I'm at the net. When I see, like you said, when I see that return go past the net player, I just jump on it and I'm all over the net, especially if it's a serve and volley player. He gets down to their feet. They have to lift it up. It's such a fun play as the returner's partner. Yeah. And a good strategy, to really kind of control that center window.
One little thing with that, Will, is a lot of players, a huge mistake as the returner's partner they make is turning around to watch their partner hit the return. Yeah. And by the time their eyes come back, it's too late. So your eyes are, first of all, the player's serving, and then your eyes can come equal and call that line, but then your eyes go straight across to the service partner, and you're watching them. And as soon as it gets by them, you go and your eyes follow the ball and you go in. Right. So rarely in doubles should you watch your partner strike the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're looking for that server's partner to start moving forward. If you see their eyes light up and then moving forward, especially if they're sitting on a forehand volley, that could be trouble. And that's when you kind of back up to play defense versus if they have a backhand volley, you can kind of stay more aggressive. One thing that my college coach, he was a pro doubles player and played at Wimbledon and stuff like that. He always told us to, it's kind of like the center window, but he always just said net strap, like hit it just over that center net strap. And that's kind of a good way to think about it. If you can keep the return low over that center net strap, it's a really, really good strategy if you can do it consistently, even if the opposing team is able to, if that net player is able to hit a few winners off it, it's okay. If you make returns consistently, you're going to break eventually.
Yeah. And taking maybe a little power off sometimes and adding more spin to make it dip,
Sure.
make them have to hit up.
Right. Absolutely. So a couple more common questions that I get from readers. So again, we're talking about this 3.0 to 4.0 level, a few 4 or 5 players. A lot of them have trouble with the lob, right? It's like, I'm trying to tell them, hey, get to the net, play up tight there, you can close out, hit some winners. They always say, but I always get lobbed. If I serve, then I hit a forehand, then I come in behind it, I always get lobbed. How do we deal with that? How do you think about that?
I'm a huge fan of the lob. I teach it a lot. It stops players that are ultra aggressive being all over the court and all over the net. Mm-hmm. From your side of the court, you really want to assign, the big advantage of, you've got your court and then you slice it across here so right. that one player is staggered in front and one player is staggered behind. So, I struggle with this playing a lot of doubles, in college and as a junior, and we, at least we have rules, but we make up a rules like cover your own lob. So, well, is that really, really true? I don't know if that's really true, but at least it's a rule. At least we got something. So once we start, it's kind of a domino effect of what's the most important thing on the court. The most important thing on the court is the center window. So the number one role of the service partner and the returner's partner is to gravitate to the center window and cut off balls and take ownership there. That's number one. So because of that, we're giving them, it's like, this is your number one job. Obviously, you can't be really good at the front and the back. You just can't. So what happens is, but the other thing is, the net is about being sneaky and it's about setting ambushes. Don't worry about me, bang, got the volley winner.
Right.
So starting, let's say the service partner, you start dead in the middle of the service box. If the serve is good, if you look over at the returner and they're in trouble, you're going to start small little split steps and gravitate to the net strap and gravitate to cutting that ball off at an angle. If there's a lob coming and the lob is short, I'm going to take it. If it's going to land in the service box or probably within a meter past the service box, that's my ball. But if the lob is good and the lob is deep, no longer is it my ball, it's my partner's ball. I can't cover the center window and the front of the court and the left side as well as the back of the court. So once you establish the three areas, I'm a left or a right player, I'm a front or a back player, or I'm a middle player. And what the 25 golden rules of doubles does is that the first thing we want to do is to establish you and create some ownership for the middle. So once we create the middle, it makes everything follow on and say, okay, I'm a middle and a front, which means I'm not a back. So,
right.
If you find yourself getting lobbed too much in a match, it's possible either it's one of two things. Your opponent's really good at the strategy, congrats to them, or you're just giving it away so much that you're too aggressive and you're telegraphing it. So if lobbing from an opposing team is a real issue, maybe as a service partner, you stand back a step and you cover that. It's like, well, I'm going to do everything I can to get the center window area, but I need to shut down this lob return or these lobs in a rally. The other thing is, lobbing is done from the baseline. So if somebody's a good lobber, why in the world are you hitting a return deep back to them at the baseline anyway? Lobbers don't want to be at the net. They're not going to serve a volley. They love to stay back. So hit it short. Hit a short, low ball and bring them in and shrink the court and make it shorter so that those lobs are going to fly out the back.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing you said that I liked a lot was you started to kind of prioritize things. And that's one thing, like we talked about earlier, how doubles is kind of complex and there's so many factors. We have to decide what's our top priority, right? You can't cover everything all the time. So our top priority's got to be that center window. And from there, we can prioritize the next thing, which might be, this team's pretty good at lobbing. So how are we going to handle that? And with prioritizing the center window in mind, One thing I tell a lot of people is that obviously one factor is your mobility, right? A lot of people, if they're older 3-5 players and they're not as mobile as they used to be or something like that, you have to choose, which partner is going to be able to physically cover the lob. But also because that center window is so important, a lot of players at that level don't have a strong backhand volley. So if they get in a position where both players are at the net, I like to say whoever has the forehand volley in the middle, just stay up on the net and let them kind of cover that middle ball. And then the other player can take the back as well.
Yeah. Well, one thing that just popped into my head that I used to do all the time in college, all the time, would be in the warm-up. And, I like to be the first to the net in the warm-up and kind of say, hey, I'm going to own this. And up there and warm my volleys up. Then the other team will come up. And all I'm doing is probing. I'm looking at the grip. Is their grip wrong? Is it too Eastern? I'm hitting them high forehand volleys. I'm hitting low forehand volleys. I'm hitting low. I'm probing to see where they're weak and where they're making errors and where the grip is. And then after that, when we go to serves, I turn around to my partner and I say, how good does your guy volley? And what we do is we establish immediately. So there's 4 possible volleys on the other side. There's the guy on the left I warmed up with, and there's the guy on the right that my partner warmed up with. So we find out of those 4 volleys, where's the weakest? And it's typically going to be a backhand volley from one of those players.
Right.
So what we then establish then is when we get in a rally and they're at net and I can hit the ball anywhere. I can go line, I can go cross. I'm going to hit, and my partner knows this now, which is even more important. My partner and I are both on the same page that when we get a ball that can go anywhere, we're going at that guy's backhand volley every stinking time. Right. And then before it's hit, I can already start moving in that direction. And you look at it as well, why is Craig going over there? The ball hasn't been hit. It shouldn't go there. It's like, no. In this situation, we're going to pick on that weak volley. So we won a lot of points by establishing who had the weak volley and knowing that when you have plenty of time, that's where you go. When I was at T-Bar, again, just popped into my head, I coached a couple of kids, Nick Plum and Stuart Kepler, and they played for Pierce High School. And it's 5-8. They won the state championship 3 straight years. The state doubles championship, 3 straight years. And everything we're saying right now, we put into those kids' games and we would drill it again and again and again. This is when they're 15, 16, 17. And it was these concepts and these strategies that won them those 3 state championships.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, that's funny. One of the things I've developed myself over the past few years is, especially, I do the same thing. So pick the weakest volley on the court. But also if I'm playing a lefty, so if I'm playing against you and a right-handed player, before the point, I'll go up to my partner and say, hey, the backhands are in the middle or the backhands are on the outside, so that we know, if you get to the net, if both players get to the net, we're going to the backhand volley. So we're either working the middle or we're not going for an all-out winner down the doubles alley, but we're trying to, dip it at that backhand volley.
Yeah.
Just because it's so important, and especially at the 3-5, 4-0, 4-5 level, most players just don't have a strong backhand volley, especially if it's against a forehand ground stroke. It's just they're not going to be able to do much with it. So really good stuff there. So a couple of final questions before I'll let you go. These are kind of rapid fire questions. What's your favorite tennis book? If you've read some tennis books.
I think Open by Andre Agassi. I think it's one of the greatest autobiographies ever written, regardless of sport. I just really enjoyed his no filter. He's ripping everyone. He's ripping himself. He's giving so many, behind the scenes things. So that for me was the number one book that I've read in the sport field.
Yeah, great book. What about a non-tennis book?
The Power of One. It's about I don't want to give it away. It's a boxing. It's about this young boy that grew up in South Africa and all the hardships and all the boxing, and The Power of One is a phenomenal read.
Okay, awesome. What is your favorite tournament to travel to?
Wimbledon. And Wimbledon. I mean, the Aussie Open's next. I got to throw that in there. But
Yeah.
if you've never been to Wimbledon, it's Disneyland. It's the Masters. It's everything rolled into one. I'm fortunate enough to work for the tournament and doing strategy, which I love. Grass, the grounds, every blade of grass is pointing in the right direction. The attention to detail is phenomenal. So that's if you love tennis and you have not been to Wimbledon, change everything. Got to get there.
You got to go.
Not this year though.
All right. So this one, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. I don't want to get you in trouble. Who is your favorite player you've coached?
Yeah. That's a good question. Who's the favorite player that I've coached? You know what? I've got to give, and this is a little bit of a funky answer. I coached this guy for one match. Essentially, we were friends, and it's Dustin Brown when he beat Rafael Nadal. And what people got to understand is that as a coach, to make an impact and to have such a massive victory, I don't need to be with Dustin for 52 weeks. I don't need to work on his forehands and backhands. I don't need to do that. He has somebody else to take care of that. But in order for Dustin to beat Rafael Nadal, he needs to know Rafa. He needs to know the opponent. So, we had a couple of days to prepare. That was the most fun I've ever had as a coach. Was Dustin beating Rafa on center court at Wimbledon. That had
2015, is that right?
2015. I mean, and I worked with Novak on 4 Grand Slams, winning 4 Grand Slams, but as a specific match, and Dustin's such a great guy, such a good friend, such a great story of his upbringing and the backstory and then how he plays and how he dismantled Rafa. That will probably go down as the most special thing that I had a part in that to help Dustin win that match. So that was an amazing day. Amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds fun. What's a story? This can be coaching on tour. This can be you as a junior player, whatever, a tennis story that you've never told anyone.
A tennis story I've never told anyone.
Or you've never told the public.
Okay. Give me a second here.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one for you. All right.
Yeah.
So it's my best win in college. Best win, singles. Mm-hmm. So it was when I was at Baylor. I played number 1 at Baylor. We weren't that good. So saying, number 1, when Baylor became Baylor, they were very good. So we're on a spring break trip. We go to New Orleans area. I think we're Tulane down there, and we're playing a bunch of schools. And I've got this Swedish guy from University of Utah, I believe, and he's top 10 in the nation. I don't remember exactly, but the guy was good. We basically, coach went to bed. We basically designated a driver, and we went out after dark, and we had a really fun time. I mean, we had as a team. I mean, we went out. We had a lot to drink, and we got home at like 6 a.m, maybe 7 a.m. I mean, I don't think we got home. I don't think we slept. So we were out partying all night. Coach comes in, and I was back. My doubles partner and I, we were the 2 worst. So we're feeling horrific, like really, really hungover. And coach is like, well, where are these guys? And the other, it's like, well, we're covering for them, but we're trying to get, a little sleep and trying to sober up a bit. So we drive to the courts. We get out of the van. We're both throwing up. He's playing on the court behind me. I remember going up to the fence. It was during the warm. He goes, "Hey, come here." I'm like, "What?" He's throwing up on the court. He's like, I don't think I can play. I'm like, you have to play. You have to, otherwise our cover's done. So I'm playing this Swedish guy. The Swedish guy is so regimented. He's so bouncing around the court. He's got so much energy. I'm looking at him. I'm like, my head hurts looking at this guy. I can't move. My stomach, I'm trying not to just throw up again. So I have no energy on the court. I'm not running. I'm literally, I can't run. I can't run. It throws this guy for a loop. Who is this guy? Who's this Australian? He's not moving. He's not, I hit a winner. He's not. So it had the effect, and trust me, this was not planned, but it had the effect of taking all the energy in the match, which this Swedish guy thrived on, and annihilating it. There's no energy. Yeah. I'm hitting third serves. I'm walking to balls. I don't care. I'm just trying not to throw up. I win the match. It was my best college match. If I had have come with energy, if I had have come, albeit, he would have beaten me 1-0. He would have annihilated me. So, it's.
I bet you kept the points short too.
Yeah, all no rallying whatsoever. Zero. Drop shot, slap it cross, let him hit 3 winners. Yeah. It just annihilated everything that he wanted to do on the court. So I haven't told a lot of people that story, but if you ask, there it is.
Awesome. So that's a good segue into to your new course. So you've got this Swedish guy on the other side, and you really took him out of his game mentally. He couldn't stay motivated. Talk a little bit about your new course, and then we'll hop off here.
Yeah, Getting Tight is to help players solve the problem of getting tight, which is universal. All players at every level will get out there, and we were okay in rallying and in practice. But once we start playing points, the arms tighten and the shoulder tightens and your brain tightens and your brain explodes and we tap out, and it's so common at every level. So I partnered with Jeff Greenwald. Jeff is a registered sports psychologist. He's formerly number 1 in the world in 35s and 45s. He loves the mental and emotional. I specialize in the strategic. He came to Austin. We filmed this course over a day. And it's very robust. It's a lot of discussions between Jeff and I about the mental, strategic, and emotional sides of the game. And it's for players that really say, you know what, yes, Craig, I struggle here. I want to be better. I don't want to get angry. I don't want to get frustrated. I know I look stupid out there throwing my racket and semi-tanking when I can't do it, but I don't know a way out of this. And that's what Getting Tight does. So we have a bunch of different scenarios, and we talk you through those scenarios. We explain why these things are happening. We explain how to get out of them. It's a really, really good course for juniors and for adults and for the top players in the world to make the mental and emotional side of your game a strength of your game, because it can certainly be a weakness. It was for me as a junior. I was the player that got angry and frustrated when I was losing points. Now, if I'm watching this, I'm like, it's okay to lose points. I'm going to lose points. I'm going to lose 45% of all points I play. I can make good errors. I have permission to miss. I give my opponent a quota of points. And if I had these techniques when I was younger, boy, it would have taken away a lot of frustration, especially from my mum and dad watching me play.
Me too. I won the John McEnroe Award at my club.
Yeah. Okay. I can relate. I
was a terrible kid.
Yeah. But we
awesome.
didn't know any better. We didn't know how to channel it.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do. Nobody told me. So, awesome. So we'll link to that below. We'll also link to the doubles courses. People should definitely check those out. Yep. Craig, great chatting with you. Thanks for stopping by, and I'm sure we'll do it again in the future.
Terrific. All right. Well, peace out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Doubles Only podcast. If you're interested in diving deeper into any topics I discuss, I've created doubles strategy products that allow me to bring you more podcasts and other doubles content without relying on paid ads. I have ebooks and courses that help you make better strategic decisions during matches and become the smartest player on the court. Go to thetennistribe.com/products to learn more. You can also join my free weekly double strategy newsletter that includes video lessons and more on our homepage. If you want to connect, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or email me directly, will@thetennistribe.com.